Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Chris Corso is a regular contributor on The Price of Business. We'd love to have him on the program where he talks about civil liberty issues and really defending our rights as individuals. And always appreciate what you do. You have a practice in Arizona, but now also in the Houston area. Before we get started with the topic today, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your practice?
Thanks, Kevin. It's good to be here as always. Yeah, we're a criminal firm. We started off in Arizona, as you said, and moved over to Houston. Been there for about 8 or 9 months at this point, and things are going well. And you know, we handle a lot of DWI, a lot of criminal offenses. You know, we're geared more towards helping our clients, minimizing a lot of damages, and protecting their rights, but also educating them on what's happening and why it's happening, so you know they know the process and know what's going to happen to them. So that's mainly what our focus is and how we do things. It's a little different than most other firms. We don't just allow our clients to just sit there and not know anything.
You know, our topic today is a great one, I think. And by the way, give your website before we get into the topic.
Sure, it's Corso, C-O-R-S-O, lawgroup.com.
CorsoLawGroup.com. Check it out. Our topic today, I think, is so timely and always is timely, which is the right to protest. And I think, we see a lot of it. It's often irritating. You know, I sit there and watch the news, and I'm like right now, I'm really glad I don't live in Chicago. Of course, I'm always glad I don't live in Chicago. But with the protests that are going on, but protesting is a fundamental right of a free country. That's one of the things that differentiates the U.S. from dictatorial regimes. And those are things that are rested in the First Amendment of the Constitution. And the First Amendment is the First Amendment because I think it's the most important amendment. I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment, which, you may not be able to protect the first without the second. But I'm a big fan of the First Amendment. And I think it's important for people to understand its scope in terms of protecting our rights.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And it's funny that you mentioned the Chicago case. It's something I wanted to actually talk about, and that's just kind of something that popped up here. And we decided to do this topic, and then this came up. So you're right. It's perfect timing. But, the Chicago case, Kevin, I'll talk about that just for a minute if I can.
Sure.
The protesters, some of them were arrested on Monday, I believe. And I'm going to get to the name in a second, but you talked about, sometimes you look at these things and you say, geez, what are these people doing? I went to school in Boston, and every day I had to walk past the Capitol building, and every single day there were protesters about something, and it's easy to walk by and say, geez, what are they talking about? And who are these people? I mean, but it surprised you to know who some of these people are. They were arrested on Monday, and 10 people for disrupting traffic, and also there were threats made at Chicago University based on these protests. And you'd be surprised to know that NAACP President Cornell Brooks was among the people that were arrested on Monday. When I read this, I said, geez, this isn't just anybody at this point. This is somebody high-ranking in that organization that feels compelled to be out there and protesting this. So, I wanted to bring that up today because it's obviously a hot topic there. And, they had over 300 people took part in this protest, and we're going to go over some of the do's and don'ts for it. But, it's amazing to me that who's out there doing this. And it's not confined to just your everyday person who we all feel, hey, they're protesting, or some people feel, hey, they have nothing to do all day. But the Chicago case is it's a polarizing case. It's and it's all over the news. So I'm sure that everybody knows that. But again, it's not confined to just everyday normal people. These are people that are high ranking in organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk a little bit about the issue of threats of and violence.
The issue of threats and violence. Well, in this situation, you have the right to protest. you have that speech, and I'm a fan of that as well. You know, it affects people, but it also affects the media and journalism and so on. But you do have the right to protest, to gather, and so on, but there are some rules. You know, you can pretty much say anything you want, but you can't get into threatening remarks. Anything that goes along those lines that, you know, you're talking about somebody and their health or their, you know, safety or something like that, and that's when you're going to start to get in trouble, you know. And we talked about this Chicago case. Well, you know, there was an online threat that happened at the University of Chicago where a student, you know, in University of Illinois was arrested and charged with threatening to kill 16 white male students or staff in retaliation to this situation, the shooting of the McDonald's in Chicago. Now, that's where it crosses the line, obviously. So when you look at these situations and the people that are doing this, you know, you realize that it affects everybody. If people are looking at this, people are seeing this.
You know, there's people who I don't think realize that assault and battery, assault is merely the threat of violence, and I don't think people realize that.
Well, yeah, and in some states, assault includes the battery, but in these situations,
in some jurisdictions,
right, it is the threat, and people feeling like they're in imminent danger of being harmed. The battery is the actual physical touching. Yeah. You know, but the assault is the threat of it. Yeah, you're right.
Time is running against us. Talk real quickly about private property issues.
Yeah, I mean, you can do this in a public place, sidewalks, streets, things like that. You know, if you have a gathering of a large group, I would say 300 people probably qualifies. You know, you have to have a permit, whether it's public or private property. You have to have a permit to do it if you're going to have any kind of loudspeakers or anything like that. But for the most part, you can be on public property. You'll see this outside of courthouses a lot, and you can protest. And we talked about the things you can and can't say. But when you start to go onto private property, now the owner of that property can kick you off. They can pretty much use all of their rights, you know, to the fullest extent to get you removed from the property. So you have to stay. You know, you have to stay on public property and know what that is. It's always good to check with officials before you do these things because it's just better to be safe. If you want your voice to actually be heard, you know, it's more effective if you can not have to worry about where this is happening. But the private property, that's something that you can't do that, or you can, but you're going to be subject to the owner's rules and what they want to have happen. Yeah.
And at some point it goes from protest to riot, and riots really don't help people's causes very much in my experience. What about police restrictions? There's always some of those.
Yeah, they can limit it. You know, if they feel that people's safety is affected and things like that, then they can limit it. They can remove you. They can be arrested for blocking roads. Here we go in the Chicago case. You know, those 10 people arresting for disrupting traffic. You know, so. And especially in a place like Chicago, you know, you can really cause a lot of problems like that. But obstructing traffic, entrances to businesses, if this is what's happening during demonstrations, you know, the police are going to get involved and they're going to start arresting people. And I'll tell you, historically, you know, government officials, police, and so on, you know, it depends on what the protest is, but they're ready to do that. I mean, they're almost willing and wanting, you know, to remove people.
Yeah, some of them obviously want to. Hey, Chris, I'm sorry we ran out of time. I liked your comments that you shared in your pre-show notes to me that were very helpful about the media. You know, I find it crazy that these people have protests. They really expect the media to be there, and they get angry when they're not, yet they treat the media with such disrespect that it doesn't even help their cause. I like your notes about that as well. I would love for you to write something about this over at US Daily, or actually at, both USDataReview.com and PriceOfBusiness.com. If we could get your office to do that, that would be awesome.
We have it coming as we speak.
Awesome. And by the way, great article, great contribution by Chris Corso to my recent article at Huffington Post. Put in Kevin Price, Huffington Post. The most recent article is one that I wrote that you helped greatly with. Thanks so much, Chris.
Kevin, thank you as always.
All right. And the website again, before I let you go.
Corso, Corso. lawgroup.com.
Check them out. Thanks, my friend. CorsoLawGroup.com. More for you after this on The Price of Business.